Joining me now for more is Democratic Congresswoman from the great state of Washington, Marilyn Strickland. She's a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congresswoman, it's an honor to have you on the show. I want to quickly play for you what Republican Congressman Troy Nehls said after Donald Trump met with House Republicans this week. Take a listen.
His mission and his goals and objectives, whatever that is, we need to embrace it. All of it. Every single word in his mission statement, we need to embrace. If Donald Trump says jump 3 feet high and scratch your head, we all jump 3 feet high and scratch our heads. That's it.
I mean, look, this kind of blind cult loyalty isn't new. But doesn't this portend hitting brick wall after brick wall for you and other Democrats trying to get things done in D.C.? That 118th Congress was the least productive in history.
Well, thanks for having me here, Katie. And I completely agree with you. It's going to be a challenge to try and govern and do our jobs. I remind folks that regardless of who is in office, my job as a member of Congress, and everyone who's a Democrat feels this way, we still have to try to deliver for the people that we represent at home. But if you look at some of the reactions that you're hearing from the Republican caucus about, some of the reactions, you're hearing him saying he's a full-on loyalist. I think that represents who Donald Trump wants to appoint to head these large, important agencies and what his agenda will be. Project 2025, they told us specifically what they were going to do. Erode our rights, tear down government, all those things, and it's going to come to life.
So Trump has decided to pick Fox News Weekend co-host Pete Hegseth as his choice to serve as Defense Secretary. You serve on the House Armed Services Committee. Now, Hegseth may be a veteran, and we thank him for his service, but he lacks the critical experience to run a department like Defense. Share with our viewers your concerns about how dangerous it will be to have someone so unqualified taking over the United States military, especially when you consider that somebody like Donald Trump remains the commander-in-chief.
Typically when we appoint someone to be Secretary of Defense, they often have 4 stars. They're generals, or they're people who have extensive experience running large organizations. If you think about the scope of what the Secretary of Defense is responsible for, this is clearly a bad pick. But on top of that, Katie, he was someone who worked for Fox News, the most unobjective media organization that got sued for lying about elections. And so my concern about his lack of experience, absolutely. I thank him for his service, absolutely. But the scope of this job is so large. And having someone who used to work for Fox News gives you serious pause about his ability to be objective and stay true to the mission.
As Donald Trump checks off his wish list of appointments, one thing that most of them seem to have in common, if you look at the screen right now, is being a white man. So you, as a female lawmaker who's also both Korean and black, do you see this as an intentional anti-DEI move by Donald Trump?
I believe he's trying to send a few messages. Number one, he's picking people who he knows will be loyal to him. So that's always his priority. He wants people who will, as Congressman Nehls said, jump, do what he says. But number two, I think he's trying to poke a finger to really say to people, look, we're anti-DEI and we're going to intentionally choose people who don't represent that. And I kind of wonder, he had 2 loyalists within his party, Senator Scott from South Carolina, Byron Donalds from Florida. Where are they in this mix? Are they going to get anything? And so they claim they embrace everyone. But if you look at who he's selecting to be in this cabinet, that is clearly not the case.
And the people that keep on bending his ear, because I love the point that you just brought up, right? Like Byron Donalds, such a huge vocal advocate and surrogate on the campaign trail for Donald Trump, conspicuously absent from that proposed list of appointees and cabinet picks. But the people that do have his ear are people like Elon Musk. Now, he says he's going to be able to cut, and I want to make sure I get this right, $2 trillion from the federal budget, doesn't have a plan, or even concepts of a plan. But doesn't Congress, including you, Congresswoman, have the ultimate power of the purse here?
We do, absolutely. And it's going to be challenging, when we're in the minority. But I remind folks, all the efforts that came forward to keep government open, the big, important issues that came forward, they were done in a bipartisan manner. And if you look at the thin margin that the Republicans will have, which will be more thin than what Kevin McCarthy had and Mike Johnson, they're going to have to depend on Democrats to get big things done. And so I always tell folks I'm hopeful about working across the aisle, but we have to keep an eye on what Donald Trump is doing. It's interesting that Donald Trump, a failed businessman, is choosing Elon Musk, who isn't exactly a person who runs businesses well himself.
Yes. That is the truth. Congresswoman Marilyn Strickland, I do want to say I appreciate that you wore a Korean hanbok on the floor. That means a lot to me as a Korean American. So thank you so much for honoring that part of your heritage. And thank you for joining us today on the Katie Phang Show. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Katie.